On a humid summer night in July 2023, Franklin County deputies were called to a quiet back road just outside Frankfort, Kentucky. A Dodge Ram pickup had rolled into a shallow ditch, its engine still running and the driver slumped over the wheel. The man, later identified as 43-year-old Terry Clark, had been shot twice in the chest at close range. There were no witnesses, no signs of struggle, and no immediate suspects. At first glance, it looked like a random roadside shooting, a tragic but increasingly familiar headline in small-town America. But as investigators dug deeper, they discovered that Terry Clark was living under a false identity and carrying secrets that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about the case. Terry Clark lived a modest, quiet life. He worked at a local hardware store, kept to himself, and rarely socialized. He lived in a small rented cabin on the edge of town, paid his bills on time, and had no criminal record. To those who knew him, Terry was polite, private, and entirely forgettable. But Franklin County Detective Rachel Mendoza wasn't convinced. "This didn't feel like a random act," she later said. "This felt personal, intentional. Her instincts were right." The first major clue came from Clark's cell phone. Investigators uncovered a series of encrypted messages with an unsaved number. The tone was tense. References to money, secrecy, and someone named Mason. The contact used a burner phone that pinged towers across Kentucky and Tennessee, suggesting someone on the move, someone deliberately avoiding detection. But the breakthrough came from an unexpected place: a federal database search. Terry Clark wasn't his real name. He had once been known as Terrell Claude Jenkins, a former FBI informant from Detroit who disappeared after testifying in a high-profile gang trial in 2007. 16 years earlier, Terrell Jenkins had played a key role in dismantling the Mason Street Kings, a dangerous drug crew linked to multiple murders. After testifying against the gang's leadership, Jenkins entered witness protection. Terry Clark was the new identity he'd been living under ever since. But his past had finally caught up with him. One name stood out in the messages on Terry's phone: Mason. Detectives suspected it referred not to a person, but to the Mason Street Kings. After tracking the burner phones purchased to a gas station in Tennessee, they pulled surveillance footage showing a man with neck tattoos and a distinct limp. Facial recognition confirmed it: Andre "Smoke" Wallace, a former Mason lieutenant who had escaped arrest in the 2007 sting. Wallace had spent years off the grid. Now he was back, and hunting the man who'd helped put his brother behind bars. In the days after Terry's murder, investigators searched his cabin and found a locked chest under his bed. Inside were several journals. In them, Terry wrote about his life in hiding, the constant paranoia, and the isolation that came with starting over. "I don't know who I am anymore," he wrote. "Every night I listen for a car that doesn't belong. I left everything to stay alive. I'm not even sure that was living." He spoke of a son he left behind in Detroit, of love he never allowed himself to feel, of guilt that never left. 6 months later, Andre Wallace was arrested outside Atlanta in a joint federal operation. He was charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder across state lines. In court, Wallace showed no remorse. "He was a rat," he said, "and rats get dealt with." Terry Clark had spent 16 years trying to escape the life he once lived. But in the end, the truth found him. For the people of Franklin County, the murder was a chilling reminder that even the quietest lives can hide the loudest secrets. And sometimes the past doesn't knock, kicks the door in.